Anyone who has ever loved an animal knows a kind of love that's unconditional and inspiring. In the face of neglect, abandonment, abuse, and even death at the hands of humans, other species still learn to trust and love again. The truth is that the needs of our pets and other creatures are simple and straightforward, and if we learn how to listen to them, we can help forge deep and fulfilling relationships that teach us a great deal about how to treat each other. This book is about reverence for and communication with all life, from the smallest insect to the giant elephant. What if, instead of filling our homes, offices, and environments with poisons to rid us of, quote, pests, we could simply ask these tiny creatures to find a more suitable home? What if we could question a cat about her refusal to use the litter box? What if we could project a calm energy over a household of troubled rescue dogs that would help them overcome their fear of abandonment? I'm here to say we can. I've done all these things. My notebook is also more than a manual about how to talk to animals. That book has already been written a number of times. I'm writing to chronicle my personal journey of change from one career to another within my chosen field of communication, and to show the reader that intention, practice, dedication, and spiritual connection are what it takes to commune with all forms of life. Almost every book I've read on how to talk to animals says anyone can do it. Most of the authors claim to have had the gift either from earliest childhood or as a miraculous revelation, but not me. My early inclinations were discouraged and forgotten. I had to start from scratch. And even though I practiced psychic counseling on the side for many years by offering private sessions to people, I was reluctant to declare my new profession as a pet and people psychic counselor. It was far less acceptable to loved ones, friends, and fans than my career as a news anchor, producer, and talk show host. The transition was a difficult redefinition for my ego. The road to declaring my own truth and embracing self-acceptance in the face of the disapproval of those I held most dear was and continues to be a long and arduous one. My work in animal and interspecies communication came 15 years after I began my practice of daily meditation, study, and psychic counseling with people. With a strong desire to exit the news business following the events of 9/11, I clearly let my higher sources know that what I needed was work that inspired me and others. Enter the animals. Their stories were moving, heart-wrenching, and full of a depth of love that brought tears to my eyes. I wrote this book because it's my contention that we need to clean up our relationships with other species. We can start that process by tuning into them and finding out what they're trying to tell us. My life's work has always been about communication, so it was a natural extension of that work to delve into the world of telepathic communication. I wanted to find out how it worked, how to use it effectively, how to identify its unique offerings and limitations, and ultimately how to introduce others to this ancient mind-to-mind way of conversing. I was fascinated by its promise as a means of communicating between species and between physical and non-physical entities. It's exciting to practice a form of contact that transcends time, space, species, and geographic boundaries. Of course, I'm not the first explorer to experiment with the use of telepathy in communicating with animals. Rupert Sheldrake, biologist and author of more than 75 scientific papers and 10 books, has studied how a dog knows when its human is about to return home unexpectedly, and why so many animals escaped the deadly 2004 Asian tsunami. After 5 years of extensive research involving thousands of people who own and work with animals, Sheldrake conclusively proved what many people who live closely with animals already know. There's a strong connection between humans and animals that lies beyond present-day scientific understanding. In A New Science of Life, The Hypothesis of Morphic Resonance, Sheldrake observes that when laboratory rats in one place have learned how to navigate a new maze, rats elsewhere in the world seem to learn it more easily. He describes this process as morphic resonance, past forms and behaviors of organisms influencing other organisms in the present through direct connections across time and space. A review of 20 years of mental telepathy research published in January 1994 in the Psychological Bulletin not only shows significant clinical evidence that telepathy exists, but also reveals surprising connections between artists and psychic abilities. Cornell University professor of psychology Daryl J. Bem co-authored the article with the late University of Edinburgh parapsychologist Charles Honerton, who conducted most of the experiments. Quote, "Taken with earlier studies, the probability that the results could have occurred by chance is less than 1 in a billion," Bem writes. There's also a rapidly growing body of literature on telepathic animal communication, and my own experiences have validated everything I've read on the subject. My first communication career was much more conventional than talking to animals. 25 years ago as a broadcast and print journalist, coupled with years in meditation, prayer, and spiritual practice, and degrees in both psychology and communication, eventually resulted in becoming captivated by this ancient kind of conversing, which included practitioners speaking not only with comatose patients, but with animals, non-physical teachers, and even angelic guides. I came to believe that telepathic communication enables us to more fully empathize by using our natural ability to sense the thoughts, feelings, images, ideas, and sensations of another being without the spoken word. Yet, just as language requires constant diligence when it comes to making sure the messages we're sending are received in the way they're intended, telepathic communication also requires due diligence and clarity. The best practitioners of telepathy experience a quality of loving compassion and an appreciation for the plight of others, including our animal companions, as a result of this dialogue that emanates from the heart, soul, and spirit. We come to feel and to know, on a deep and profound level, that we are all from the same spiritual source. This kind of communication opens us up to the deepest possible connection with all other living beings, whether they are the same species or not. Through telepathy, we can better hear the language of the soul, the whisper that becomes more recognizable as it gently guides us through the maze of physical existence. This is the kind of communication that tells us, before the phone rings and before we pick up the receiver, who's on the other end of the line. The kind of communication that warns us not to board that airplane or get into that elevator. That rattles a parent to the core when an absent child is hurt or endangered. We're all born with the ability to send and receive telepathic messages. It's just a matter of choosing to develop the skill needed to effectively make use of telepathy on a day-to-day basis. In my professional practice today, I am an interpreter and translator of telepathic messages. I use this form of communication, this developed skill, to speak to God, Goddess, to my own soul, to the soul of other travelers in this physical world who seek my counsel, to animals of all kinds, and to all nonverbal living things. It is my hope that as I share my story with you, you'll be inspired, comforted, and blessed. May these words bring you closer to your own soul and to the sacred divine.